It's crunch time in the season. You cannot get much closer than this. 3 rounds to go, 3 drivers still with a legitimate shot of the title, and you look to this track and everybody just looks up to the heavens and prays. This is the classic circuit of Watkins, Glen. Everybody is just looking for a finish, and they'll assess what points they have coming out of today. Round 10 of your Grand Prix Legends is here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who is watching around the world. My name is Jake Sperry, and alongside me in the booth for today's action is Joey Atterbury. Robert O'Brien is on the director's chair today. He is using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But to a circuit that has relatively been left unchanged, to a layout which is classic and will be full of overtaking, let's get a look at what this upstate New York circuit has to offer with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time.
There's nothing quite like it, and there is nothing that really compares to it. This is as much of a super speedway on road as it possibly gets. It's as classic as you want it. 7 turns, no chicanes, and overtaking the name of the game, Joey.
Yes, it is, and I would have loved to race this short classic layout. 7 turns, 2.45 miles, and like Jake was saying, it's pretty much like a super speedway of road course racing. It is all going to be about carrying the momentum throughout this entire track, but something about Watkins Glen, tons of elevation, specifically downhill into turn 1 to 90. You really got to be careful on the brakes, especially in this 40-plus car field opening lap. Same thing through the S's. Lots of funnel sections. It's uphill, easy to get tripped over one another through there. It's very, very narrow. Then the track kind of opens up. The outer loop going to have to be another danger area again because there is a pavement transition in the brake zone going into that. And that's where the cars are at their very, very top-end speed. But then after the outer loop, it's relatively simple. Just a couple fast corners back out onto the front straightaway, and that's a lap around this place.
It's a very simple lap when you put it on paper, but we don't drive on paper. We drive in the real world, and we drive in sim racing. We have some great action here. Togo Hesada with the championship lead. The gap 13 over Jorge Nieva, who did not race last time out, used one of his 2 drop rounds available to him. The big worry from those behind is Adrius Valentaius, who is on a winning streak that is nigh on impossible to stop. He's just 24 points back and is looking to try and capitalize on a couple of poor performances from Togo Hesada late on in the season. Sebastian Tixier, he is 4th overall with Laust Olsen and Bill Tyler in that race for 4th. They are 5th and 6th. Marco Antonio Lopez in 7th position has John Olsen behind him in 8th, and some great work in the top 10 for Robert Plumley. He's up to 9th on consistency. Mick Claridge, with his stop and start momentum for the season, finds himself in 10th. Joey, F2 looks like that is a little bit more cut and dry.
And Kevin Verbruggen right now is really running away with it. 57 points over Jan Steffen. And really, Jan doesn't have anybody to worry about either. Rolly Wallbank, a good chunk of points back, but it is tight right there. Rolly Wallbank and Jonathan Jordan tied for what is that third place. And then another battle between Kurt Clapper, Don Peak, Arnold Cook, Tobias Harnvey. Those drivers are only 7 points away from each other. So that's 4 drivers locked into another battle out there. Also consider Mats Linden, Timothy Porter also inside the top 10 here. Only a couple races remaining here in this championship.
And the Cup of Nations is more and more likely heading over to the Iberian Peninsula, where Spain hold that 33-point margin over Japan. The United Kingdom a point behind in third position. The United States in their own race for fourth. They've got Singapore to deal with Denmark in sixth, Lithuania seventh, and the Netherlands in eighth, all split by just 12 points. You then have Germany, who find themselves a little bit isolated in ninth position, and the Italians rounding out the top 10 as things currently stand. But here on round 10 of 12, this is all that you could possibly ask for, Joey. It's 30 laps, and it's pretty much elbows out who's got it by the end.
Just like every round here in this championship, it is open setup, so you get to tweak and tune on the car. If it's turning a little bit too much, well, adjust those shocks, adjust the differential. If you need more bite in the front end, well, you can go ahead and do that. You can play with it all that you want out there. No spare car, though, so if you go ahead and damage that piece that you're driving, well, you're going to have to live with it or come down pit road, have that crew hop over pit wall and get that thing fixed up. A drive-through penalty at 17x. Disqualification at 25x, and there's a few areas of Watkins Glen that you can really run outside the track here. Also have to be careful of those slowdown time limits that Barney will hand out.
Yeah, Barney the flagman very much knows where every element is. Now, there's 8 minutes here in qualifying. You have 2 laps to go and set your time. As things stand, it's Sebastian Tixier on the pole with a 107.010, but Kevin Verbruggen currently on the front row finds himself 1/10 of a second back. Togo Hesada looking for the lap times, but we do have to note that it's a little bit more spread out here today in terms of everyone getting their qualifying times in the way that they'd want to, just because it's such a short qualifying lap. People can wait to see what the benchmark is.
And that's exactly what Togo Hesada is doing. Looking at the top of the board, a minute 7.01. So you're right, these cars are flying around this place. Togo Hesada hasn't even put down his first lap. This is his first timed lap as he goes through the outer loop right here. A very fast sweeping corner, and he'll have plenty of time to complete this one, plus his second.
Yep, you can use all of the runoff there of the outer loop without taking an off-track instant point. You just can't clip the grass when coming back on. That will get you the point as they go through, absolutely sliding it through the penultimate corner, turn 6, into turn 7, which leads on to the straight. You've got the safer barrier there on the outside to avoid any of the big hits. Over the line is a 107.2. That's a good opening time. Puts him on the third row of the grid. P6. Jorge Nieva here today, third position. We haven't seen anything yet from Aldris Valentias, which would indicate to me, Joey, that he might not be here.
Yeah, I don't see him anywhere on the screen, and so I think your guess is as good as mine. Not in the split right here. But speaking of Togo Hesada that we're still riding on board with, that 107.2 puts him 6th on the first lap. Traditionally, the second lap much, much faster, and I'm looking at the live timing. Jake, he's already tracking 3/10 better through the outer loop.
So he's just got to keep it together here through the second half of the lap, and he's really going to have to fight over these bumps, and he keeps it perfectly straight. Hesada, the championship leader, who has been simply sensational this season at just managing the points all, getting what he can. Small overcorrection there through the middle of turn 6 and into 7, really trying to get some steering angle in through the middle. Counter steer off the exit, can't afford to clip the wall off the exit or the lap won't count. 107's to beat. It's a 106.9 exact. And look at that. He puts a 10th on the Singapore driver, Sebastian Tixier, and that is pole, and a huge pole at that, Joey.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the rest of the field. I don't see anybody that is going to threaten Togo Hesada. In fact, that is going to set our grid.
It is. So Togo Hesada with that 106.9 is going to be on pole position with Sebastian Tixier alongside for company. Kevin Verbruggen, what a time there from him. He'll start from third with Jorge Nieva fourth, and Xavier Sanchez, their Heikki 360 ES, will go from fifth, and Oye Zamayoa, nice to see him back racing, he's in sixth. Richard Watson and Gary Ho will house the fourth row of the grid with an all-Olsen fifth row, Laust leading John.
Well, it's not Mary Kate, but it's Robert Plumley in 11th place, Leo Sequeiro in 12th, David Rossi starting 13th, Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado here in the 14th position, Kirk Clapper starting 15th, Robert Pengrazi in 16th. On row number 9, it's Matthew Maudsley and Steve Morris in 18th spot, Jeff Saunders and Rolly Wallbank in 20th.
And then over the page, the 11th row of the grid. Drivers looking to quickly get themselves on here. Michael Grissinger and Jan Stefan with Jackie Matthews and Jonathan Jourdain in at 24th. Yoshiharu Hashimoto goes from 25th with Cam Porter 26th. And there's his brother, Timothy Porter, just behind by a couple tenths with Arnold Cook 28th. It's then David French and Christopher Laudable.
And then in 31st is Andres Bruno, Andrew Eng here in 32nd. David Muse in 33rd, Timothy Chevalier here in 34th, Kyle Lowry in his number 38 and 35th, Alejandro Sanchez starting 36th, and a handful more here, Michael Rushbrook in 37th, Don Peake 38th, Thomas Martin 39th, Jim Matson in 40th, and Robert Reynolds will be the final and 41st car on today's grid.
41 here is often a scary number. You do not want to have 41 cars going up the S's, which will be the big choke point on the opening lap. It says go bowling around here, and often it does feel like that, where often machinery is made to feel very much like a bowling pin and gets thrown left, right, up and down. Let's take a look at our weather very quickly here today. It is hot on track, 105 Fahrenheit, 41 degrees, and it's blowy as well from the southwest. So keep that in mind. These drivers are going to be scrapping against all of the conditions, just dropping a degree there as we just see it on track with the partly cloudy conditions, and so much to look forward to on the horizon with iRacing's Week 13 build coming up, the most anticipated it ever has been on iRacing. But here in the Grand Prix Legends, who's going to make themselves a legend? 30 laps then on the clock. Togo Hesada from the pole. Lights on here at Watkins, Glen, and a lights out, and we are off. And it's a brilliant start by Tixier alongside, really trying to get that launch here, heading down towards the opening corner. It's a nice clean start by everyone as they've dived on through the 90. No real worries to speak about. Nieva comfortably falls into line in fourth position, but watch out for Kevin Verbruggen, and there's the troubles in the back.
I believe it was Laust Olsen spun around facing the wrong way in turn number 1. And look at that front left wheel damage. Definitely going to have to live with that, but it's all Togo Hesada trying to run away. Kevin Verbruggen looking on Seb Tixier right in the slipstream going up the hill the first time.
Now, we've never had an F2 championship leader take the overall victory in a race, and there on the inside, running a bit wide as Jorge Nieva slips on through and uses all that experience that he's got, over a decade's worth of sim racing experience. He jumps up now into third position. Everybody having a little look, and there is one very crucial matter of fact when it comes to a race like this, Joey. Stay with the train. Do not break 1.5 seconds, otherwise you've got no chance of catching in a race like today.
That final corner,
Whoa.
a big slide. I believe that's Robert Plumley going to be parked perpendicular on the racing line, never where you want to be exiting the final turn. Hopefully he doesn't get ran into. But Jake, you were mentioning how fast this place is. I was looking at the minimum speeds through some of these corners. About as slow as you get, 90 miles an hour.
That's quick. That's faster than your freeway speed, so you're going to have to be very much alert. Jorge Nieva has come to race today, and he gets a tyre dipped in the grass. He starts thinking about which way does he go. There's also a look behind as Xavier Sanchez looks to make the pass then on Kevin Verbruggen. This for fourth position. There'll be no arguments against it. He'll dive on through, but look how deep he runs, trying to outbrake him into the corner. Up and under you go, and they're already at a second behind. This is going to cost their entire group.
And you just have to really focus on that exit. It looks like Xavier Sanchez will end up making that pass on Kevin Verbruggen right there. So a little bit unorthodox. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of drivers overshoot that brake zone into the outer loop all day. Over-unders, people are going to capitalize on them.
Looks like Matthews has run into a couple troubles as well on the opening stages, but Hesada leads, Tixier second, Jorge Nieva finds himself third with the fastest lap as well. Search down the inside behind, 6th and 7th, as Yamayoa has Richard Watson for company then, as he will look to climb up the field. The number 10 from Club Texas is going to have to do it all through the S's, can't find an angle, but he'll get back into the slipstream. This is where you really want to maximize having that overspeed, that extra little bit of pace that you've got from the Ford DFV Cosworth engine, the most successful engine out there, that's had 15 years of producing at least one Formula victory out there, 2 I2D as they head themselves through, but no dice against the number 1 of Zamiyo. He's got the highest iRacing in the field, which indicates he's a pretty good racer.
Well, and check out John Olsen as well. He's trying to make a move on the purple helmet of Gary Ho. So these two are side by side coming into turn number 6. Looks like he's going to try to go around the outside as John Olsen. Can he keep it on the track? A really, really nice move, taking the Darlington the long way around.
Well, he had to take the long way because he didn't know he had clearance when he turned into the corner, so he needed a little bit of bravery there, and he gave the room and he gave the space, and that's the preservation that's there. Xavier Sanchez now with the fastest lap of 107.1, and that time is looking to go down and down and down as he goes, and he is desperately trying to cling on to another Spaniard, Jorge Nieva, just in front, second in the championship. That's his primary focus here today. How far can I climb up forward, and can I steal a little victory by jumping onto the front group? He is pulling Verbruchen with him, and it's 1.1 back to Zamayoa. So everywhere you look, there's a little search here and there. Gary Ho under pressure right now, back there in 10th place, or 9th place, I should say. He's got Leo Sequeiro, who is having a look, and he's just made the pass.
And speaking of these two cars on screen right here, I think that Kevin Verbruchen is plenty happy, kind of attaching the fishing line to the back of Xavier Sanchez, letting the number 4 really pull him up to this lead group. Kevin Verbruchen had a fantastic lap in qualifying, but he is that F2 points championship leader. He's not technically racing these drivers for points. However, if you can go forward and really race your way into that top 3, that's part of that front group. You need that experience to then go collect that win.
106.9, Sebastian Tixier now lights the timing sheet purple with that lap, and he has to push because Jorge Nieva is making him. When you're in the middle of a train like this, Joey, how often is it a case of your best defense is an attack? Sometimes you get forced to the front because you'll lose the place otherwise.
100%, and when he got Nieva right behind, who's literally fighting Hesada in that championship, it's kind of tough to be sandwiched right in the middle there. Seb Tixier knows plenty about racing at the front in these races, though. This trio, extremely fast.
They are so fast. 2 reigning champions, or 2 former champions in Togo Hesada and Sebastian Tixier. Jorge Nieva is looking to join that pantheon if he can get himself through in the latter stages of this championship. He's relying on mistakes from the young Japanese starlet who leads this race, and Togo Hesada, he is timeless in terms of his talent. He drives in a way that you look at all of the greats in racing and sim racing, and he's got every single quality trait.
You know, he's done extremely well, especially progressing up through these vintage cars, and here he is on full display leading this train right here. But Jake, if you ask me, I think the fastest of the group right now in this race is that 3rd place car of Nieva. I know that he's got the benefit of the slipstream, but he's been all over the back of Seb Tixier. As I say that, Tixier has got a run on our leader, and here comes Nieva. Tixier lifted.
He lifted, and that's what happens. Attack will be attack. Down the inside, Jorge Nieva does not wait for anybody. He will go through at the outer loop on lap 6, and he will take 2nd position away. Now, that is very interesting. You don't have to make the moves necessarily right away in terms of this race. It doesn't pay for Togo Hesada to be at the front of this pack. He will have to do the defensive duty out there, but the fact that they're lifting all of a sudden brings Xavier Sanchez in at 0.8 of a second. That group now starts to coagulate a little bit more. It was 3 to begin with. You could argue now it's 7.
Yeah, and I only think that Seb Tixier lifted because it was just a little bit of a stack up. He didn't want to run into the back of Hesada, and I just don't think he compensated for Nieva and the head of steam that the number 2 car really had. But now we're going to see Togo Hesada versus Nieva. What is Togo going to do with the pressure in the mirrors?
and now everybody's starting to form their groups. It's the front 7 that are clear, and then it's John Olsen's group all the way back to David Rossi in 12th position. You can definitely get that sense that all of these drivers are looking for that small latch, that small hook that they can jump onto the back of at the moment. They can't make the moves every single lap out there, but they can be patient and wait for the right opportunity to strike. This is going to be a race of attrition in some respects, because you are going to have to be very alert. And look at it suddenly expand out then between Xavier Sanchez and Kevin Verbruggen, who is there in 5th position. Verbruggen's consistency, unable to match the pace then of the front 4, even with the slipstream helping him out a little bit. And this is where he is pretty much knocking on the door and saying next season he is definitely a top 10 candidate, maybe even a top 5. We look further back, there is Cam Porter in 16th position in his battle of the Porters that he's got going forward. His brother Timothy's dropped back to 23rd. All in all, he's having a good race at the moment.
Yeah, and he's got Kurt Clapper right in front of him, the number 23 car. So himself and Kurt having a good run. And speaking of Cam Porter that we're riding on board with, Jake, he is our biggest mover currently, up 10 positions.
That tells you all you need to know. He's been in the right place at the right time. He's been making his moves, and he might just decide to make it 11 if he can get past Kurt Clapper, and he's got a fantastic run on this straight. Watch him move out to the inside. Moves by the marker boards then for the chicane that he doesn't take. Look how early they're having to dab onto the brakes there. It's almost like you pass the first port of call as you go through the chicane, and then that's the moment you're going to have to get on the binders. For all of the speed that these Lotus 49s can get and all the torque that they've got, braking prowess, you need to leave a little bit of room.
And speaking of that section of the racetrack specifically, Jake, you go over that bus stop, the chicane, the inner loop, whatever you want to call it, but there's that transition of pavement as well. So there's a few different banking angles going on. You have to deal with all of that with the brake pressure underneath your foot as well as those downshifts.
Yeah, you've got all of those forces available and against you, and you've got to be really switched on to what you've got, who's around you. This is the thinking driver's race that they've got available to them at the moment. That much we can very much see. There is Marco Antonio Lopez, who's now fallen down to the caboose of the train in 12th position. David Rossi has found his way through, and now he'll be looking to try and get back and push forward. John Olsen, the leader of that group, they are 5.3, the train effectively off of the race lead as it currently stands, so there is still some work to be done. But you're seeing those small gaps that open up, and you'll lose a fraction here and you'll lose a fraction there, and that's always going to be the point of concern in a race like this. How many fractions can you lose before you get a whole digit?
This is a good 5-car train here for what is kind of a battle inside of the top 10, so gonna have to be curious on how all of this settles out. And we got to remember, we're only about a third of the way into this race right now. With the lap times being so short, Jake, we haven't even seen the lap traffic yet.
No, we haven't, and that was Gary Ho running off the road there at the 90 and pushing wide. Yes, it used to be a little bit more difficult over there, but they have expanded that out, so you do have that ability to run off the road. So that is a case of him just being able to use that, get himself back out onto circuit without too much trouble. Meanwhile, it's starting to get busy up here at the front. The fantastic 4 of Hisada, Nieva, Tixier, and Sanchez all there. Nieva looking to the outside of turn 6 here on lap 10, thinking about the race lead. Is he going to try and cross him up and under, not once but twice? Thinking about that look to the inside, thinks better of it. Hisada now is being put through the ringer.
Oh boy, and here comes Nieva. Was a little bit tidier through the final turn, setting him up on the front straightaway. Can he outbrake Hisada into turn 1? They are side by side. Nieva really dives for the apex. Can he clear that number 3 car? No, it is going to be a drag race. Favor goes back to Hisada now.
Yep, and he'll use the banking around the first part of the S's to get himself the line he wants, but can you fall back into file if you're Nieva and attack? You'll leave yourself vulnerable to Tixier if you can't make the overtake, and don't count out Xavier Sanchez, who'll be happy to go there again. Togo Hisada happy to defend the inside line. We'll go too wide, too deep wide, don't we? Sanchez to the inside as well at at the carousel, and through this outer loop, it looks like Nieva has been really good off of the exit here. This is where he's picking it up. He's trying to get up and under again and again. He stays tight through that section of track. That's allowing him a smoother line as they go forward. It's fractionally good, but around the outside he'll go, and what a brilliant pass that is for the Spaniard to take the lead and crucially 5 championship points away from Togo Hesada.
Oh, he held on to it through the final turn, though. Definitely got loose. Allows Togo Hesada to say, hey, you know what? Maybe he's not that much faster than me. I'm going to go up here and fight this thing. I think that Nieva has just been a little bit tidier, a little bit cleaner through all of his apexes. He's really been able to capitalize on those exits, like you were saying. That's what set up that pass.
And look, if Hesada finishes second the whole way through and Nieva takes the last 3 races of the season, it's Nieva who'll take the title by 2 points. So this is why it is so important that these drivers are chopping and changing. Hesada back to the outside here on lap 12, looking down the ins or the outside, trying to get this past. Nieva will again cover it, but Hesada's got to get back into line quickly. Otherwise, Xavier Sanchez will stick his nose in as the second of the Iberians in this race, second of the Spaniards. Traffic now starting to play a factor, and look at this, be a pick maybe for Togo Hesada. Can't find it on the brakes at 6.
Well, it was Nieva that made the move last lap. Hesada was trying to poke the nose in this lap, and so it looks like Togo Hesada, with the benefit of that slipstream, still plenty fast behind Nieva. Certainly seems like we've got a race not only between the championship 2, but probably the fastest 2 on the racetrack.
And all that battling has brought Oye Zamayoa, who's made the pass on Verbruggen himself, and Richard Watson into this group. It's 7 again back at the front. So the more it opens up, the more it closes back in once again. And that's always going to be the concern out there in terms of this race, that all of these drivers, the more that they are able to break away, the more likely it is that they're going to close back up and start scrapping amongst each other again. You've got to work out how many people do you want in the party by the time last orders are called. Back to the inside again, trying to get that angle off the exit, but once more, Nieva's got this one covered, and Hesada uses all of his road tax and then some, trying to find a move.
Nieva really right in the middle of the road on entry. Going to have to deal with a lapped car that might affect the corner exit here. Let's see what happens. He leaves the bottom of the racetrack open for the leaders. A nice job right there as you see him kind of bump into the wall. But the top 4 skates on through.
No worries for the front 4, and they've built that gap again because Verbruggen made the pass on Zamayoa on that last lap. They started scrapping amongst each other at that point. Back up onto the power then. We're almost at halfway here at 14 of 30, and it's Jorge Nieva who is looking to try and make a dent in Togo Hesada's championship lead at this point in time, with Sanchez behind him, Tixier there as well. It's a case of who can do what. Hard to the inside again from Nieva, wants to cover that inside line, and there's a little search behind as Tixier forces his way to the inside, trying to get the pass on Sanchez, and he gets it done, and he moves the back up into 3rd position. Great move from the driver, French in origin, but currently driving from Singapore, but he'll lose it back once again to Sanchez.
And as we watch Togo Hesada, he poked his nose down on the inside of turn number 6 as well. Jorge Nieva just kind of covers it off, being right in the middle of the road. And we got to remember, that's also where Nieva made the pass around Togo Hesada. So you got to believe the confidence in the number 2 driver at turn 6 at an all-time high. Probably not the best area to go poking the nose down in. And actually, here's Togo Hesada slipping up a little bit at apex of turn 1. He's got to stay nice and tidy here. These front 2 are actually starting to run away. They're about a second in front of Sanchez now.
I wonder if that was a case of Tixier getting a slowdown penalty, having to give up that time once again, and as such the gap has ballooned out to 1.1, and that's on the fringes of breaking and collapsing. Not what the doctor would have ordered for those in 3rd and 4th. Back again on the brakes then into the outer loop once more, and Nieva's got that covered, and he's happy with his position in this race. Zamayoa back through again on Verbruggen behind in 5th, 6th and 7th, and their focus continues to be on this race and what can be procured on it. There is also that two-car group behind of Olsen and Sequeiro making their challenges for 8th and 9th places. So everywhere you look inside the top 10, there is action going about, and no position you could argue is safe. Huge slide off the exit by Nieva, just about covers it off. 10th and 2/3 crossing the line, heading over towards the 90 once more.
It just goes to show you how much these drivers are on the edge, and actually a poor exit from Nieva. Hisada just doesn't have anywhere to capitalize. This racetrack is so narrow going into the S's, going side by side. Would have definitely checked them both way up, but he stays right in the tire tracks, right on the gearbox, going to capitalize now on the slipstream down the straightaway and into the outer loop.
Right, rising up to the highest point of this circuit. There's the heavy bumps as they hit the brakes. The lap traffic that's there in front is not going to be too helpful to them at the moment, but the longer that you can stay in that slipstream, the more likely it's going to be that you can use that as an ability to defend, and that's what Nieva has kindly done. He's been able to navigate the traffic without any issue at all, and Togo Hisada right now has just been saying, you know what, I don't have to make this move right now. I've been keeping myself right up towards the limit, but not needing to make that pass, and that's been the key. I don't need to make the pass just yet. I want to, but there is something called game theory, and when is the best time to make that move? When your opponent can't fight back.
Now, I'm going to be the devil on the other shoulder from you, Jake. I agree that patience is key to winning a race, but in the case of Togo Hisada, if you are too patient, remember, they were a full second in front of that number 4 car, Xavier Sanchez. Well, being patient, it is now down to a half a second. That 2-car fight for the lead is back to 4 cars.
Yeah, they've started to close that back down once again to 0.7 of a second off the race leader. They're taking a couple tenths here and a couple tenths there off of Nieva and Hisada, just with the power of the slipstream out of the S's and up over the plateau on the back stretch, heading towards turn number 4, turn 5, sorry, the outer loop. Little twitchy from both of them on the brakes, then through in at 6, and then finally turn 7, where of course that famous NASCAR race came into play with Michael Conti, of course, making the push to pass to win here at Watkins Glen. This is going to be a very similar scenario that you're going to find. It's never over until the final corner's taken, and the questions will be asked, who is ready to put their championship, some would say, on the line to find a victory here at Watkins Glen?
And you were talking about iconic moments here at Watkins Glen, and speaking of iconic stuff, at iRacing, I know that they're releasing the rain. I know for a lot of drivers in the Northeast, Watkins Glen plus rain brings back a lot of nightmare memories. As Togo Hisada, he's right on the back. He can make a move into the outer loop, but Jake, I think it's more what you were talking about, kind of that management when you want to make the move.
Pixier makes the move, though. He'll go through, and I'm sure in terms of nightmares of rain at Watkins Glen, Joey, I know you're one of them.
Oh, yeah, I've got plenty of them. Trust me. Thankfully, I haven't been on my roof, but I have had my teammate go over my roof before.
Yeah, so you've seen so much that happens in terms of racing around here, and look at the road being used by Jorge Nieva, sliding it every which way he can, but Hisada gets an almighty run off the exit, can't find the angle to really attack as he oversteers it on the straight, trying to find that angle, wasn't quite there, and Tixier suddenly there. Zamioa now suddenly on the back of Xavier Sanchez. He's broken off of Kevin Verbruggen. That gap now 0.8 of a second, and Zamioa has been so quiet in this race, but now car number 1, he jumped in last season, made a title push, didn't quite get it. Here, he's stage hunting.
You were making the comment about his iRating, and actually right now up front, Togo Hisada is side by side with Nieva. He is to the inside of the outer loop, so he's making the pass for the lead again. Zamioa and company, it is all just compressing right behind the leader. And Jake, talking about this specific driver, I think that maybe he just didn't have a whole lot of practice at the beginning of the race. He kind of fell back a little bit, but now that he's got about 15, 20 laps under his belt, look at him charge back.
Absolutely. We talk about drivers needing momentum, and if you can build it lap after lap, the confidence levels grow, and all of a sudden you find yourself in with a shot in a race like this. That's been where the keys find themselves, and Oye Zamioa has been that driver, the Basque driver, who has been doing so well over the course of this race. He needs to try and prove that that number one isn't just for show, that it's also going to give him dough on top of that. There is Tixier up the hill. Will he be a thorn in the side of Jorge Nieva at this moment in time? Having started on the front row of the grid, he'll want to get back to position. There's a two-car tandem in front that they'd love to latch onto. Tixier having a little bit of a search here, searching for that inside line, and he's going to take that away. He's been quiet through the middle, but suddenly he roars into life.
And you've seen Nieva try to do the over-under, but Tixier really held the car down on the apex, did not allow that lane of room. And you see these two cars right in front of our lead battle. Yes, that is a fight amongst themselves for 31st place. So we've ran up on a few lapped cars, but now is the first time we're going to be running up on multiple.
It's Kevin Verbruggen, the F2 championship leader, finds himself in trouble and he may be out of this race. And that is a massive, massive moment there. And it will give the likes of Jan Stefan a chance to get back in. GSRC replay, and it's all on his lonesome.
Yeah, I think that this is a downshift gone wrong right here, folks. Let's listen to it.
Oh, engine.
Yep.
Oh, and engine. That is heartbreak.
You saw the big puff of smoke come out the back end of that thing and no drive whatsoever. Certainly a shame for the F2 points championship leader.
And just like that, everybody else will get a chance to jump a stage closer in the F2 Championship. Meanwhile, you've still got Jorge Nieva and Sebastian Tixier who are there. It's now 5 at the front. Richard Watson finds himself 2 seconds adrift there in 6th place. So that's their focuses going on. Tixier, almost contact there between himself and also Jorge Nieva. And suddenly Sanchez is on the scene. He doesn't know which way to go. It's all of a sudden 7/10 of a second lap. Traffic also gets involved, and Hisada almost gets the break he needs.
Yeah, that was extremely close between that 2nd and 3rd place car, and we're going to see, I don't think that Hisada is far enough out front to really run away from this group, but a huge wiggle from Tixier coming out of turn 1. All of these drivers on the absolute limit for sure.
He is trying, is Sebastian Tixier, and you can't blame him for it. He drives in virtual reality, he throws everything he can at it and then some, and he is absolutely throwing what he can at it at this moment in time. He knows he's got to catch back up to his side if he wants a chance of victory, and look how much these Lotus 49s get unsettled under braking at the bumpy entrance in towards that outer loop. And this is truly a Colin Chapman car, this Lotus, when you consider it's all about adding speed and lightness.
And no downforce. Remember, these cars, they don't have it. And let me call this out, 100 miles an hour through turn number 6 right there. Through the final turn, turn 7, the minimum speed, I'm seeing 86 miles an hour as Nieva really trying to look up the inside. So that just goes to show you how fast these cars are, and they're making it all without any aerodynamic grip.
Absolutely, they don't want to be going defensive. They find themselves now on lap 23 here of 30. They've got themselves 8 laps to figure this one out. Who is going to find victory at the end of this one? Togo Hisada given a slight reprieve over the last couple of laps, and all he can do is put his car in the right places. But you watch that timer on the left-hand side of the tower start ticking down. There's not much that you can say or do about it. It's just going to keep dropping and dropping, and it becomes 3/10 again, unless Tixier runs straight on. He'll now get dropped to the back of the train, and Nieva gets a free kick to jump on forward. A rare mistake there from Tixier, but one that is so common with his style. He often finds the one mistake he makes is he outbrakes himself.
He's usually so aggressive on the brakes. It is the cause for so many of his awesome passes, but this time just a little bit too deep. He went from 2nd all the way back to the 5th place, so now it's Nieva free to chase down Togo Hisada again, and he's cut it down about a half second. Jake, do you see this 3-car intense battle right in front of our lead group? It's about to get busy.
It will get busy, and they are going to have to be very cautious here in iRacing. It is not mandatory in terms of the blue flags. It is advisory. Don Peak finds himself in the middle of this 3-car scrap right now for 27th position. here in this race as the searches now start to find to the inside, and he will lose a position then on the brakes as they go through. So that is a very important one. Wide will go one, and all of a sudden the leaders are going to be right up on top of them. And Togo Hesada now is going to have to be very careful. This is Andrew Eng, Don Peak, and of course you've got Laudable, who's in that mix as well, who's dealing with that. A little bit of blinking's not going to help either in front of Don, but now start worrying if you're Togo Hesada. You have got to slice and dice.
Yeah, and Togo just got held up just the slightest there in turn 6. He made the smart move. He had to make sure that he presented the car, but unfortunately that brought Nieva, Sanchez, and Zamayoa right back into the gearbox. Now he's going to get checked up into turn 1. This is going to get interesting up through the S's. How are you going to handle the lap traffic and the differing speeds?
Yeah, you can't find your way over it. You can't find your way under it. You can't go through it. You're going to have to go around it. So now, where do you go? Jorge Nieva sliding through on the brakes. Does he have an angle to go through? Yes, he does. But Kushi Hasada still got himself that 1/10 of a second. So still they hold. And now this is going to be where the mad scramble goes through. Sanchez follows through. Zamayoa follows through. Tixier follows through. They all managed to get through. But now those drivers 3rd and 4th, they're going to want to get involved in this.
I tell you what, each one of these front 5 drivers, they owe each other a round after this one because they all made the right move. They all gave each other space, and now it's going to get squeezed up on exit of turn number 6. Closer than ever, coming to 5 to go.
Yeah, and you don't want to be on the wrong side, having to compromise your line, and that's going to cost the likes of Tixier a couple tenths of a second. These drivers are now going to have to start thinking about where they can make the move, who's going to want to be aggressive, who doesn't here, as it is the Fantastic 5 who find themselves through, some would say a famous 5, now looking for an opportunity up through the S's again. 5 laps to go at Watkins Glen, and still anybody of the top 6 has a chance of victory.
So now that I've been able to kind of catch my breath barely, right? Togo Hesada, he just has such a clean line up through the S's. All of these drivers are really struggling at the very, very top of the S's as Nieva gets in so deep into the outer loop. He doesn't make contact with Hesada, but he's going to give up 2nd place.
And Xavier Sanchez now will take the prime position on circuit of 2nd. That's a fantastic bit of opportunistic driving, but it was a half look. That was just that, a half look from Jorge Nieva, and he overcooked it going through, did everything he could to not make contact with the Japanese driver leading this race. Nothing more said about that. That could have been disaster. That could have been your top 2 in the championship out of this race.
Well, this is the moment that Xavier Sanchez has just kind of had plopped into his lap right now, up 3 positions from where he qualified and in a spot to win today's race. Let's see if that number 4 car can capitalize.
Well, he's got 4 laps to find a way through, same as his number at the moment, sliding it up through turn 4. He's going to want to try and find an angle. At 2/10 of a second, he might have a half a chance, and Hesada moves over to the middle of the circuit, forces Xavier Sanchez to go the long way around, but he backs out of it on this occasion, really trying to stay low to the inside of the circuit, trying to pick that run up off the exit, but this is perfect defense by Hesada. He's using just 1.5 car width of the road, and again covers that inside line. He's defending for what he's got.
And it's really just stacking everything up behind him now. Nieva's all over Sanchez. Zamayoa, the 4th car in line. Tixier, the 5th car in line. Hesada, a little bit of a slip-up coming out of the final turn. That's going to allow Xavier Sanchez to go side by side. It's going to be a braking duel down into turn 1. The outside line can capitalize on exit as long as you hang on. Here comes Nieva. He's going to try to make it 3 wide. No, he thinks better of it.
This is fantastic. 3 Spaniards up against it. Huge slide from Sanchez. Can he cover it off? Yes, he can. He'll take the race lead. And now Hesada will have to look backwards up the hill because Jorge Nieva now is pretty much right on his bumper, trying to find a way through. Zamayoa might try and split the difference. He moves hard to the inside. Tixier's got nowhere to go. They all jam on the brakes trying to find an angle. They all do. Sanchez has Christmas behind him essentially at this point. Hesada somehow still finds himself in 2nd ahead of Nieva.
Look at the run that Nieva has, though. Can he go around the outside like we saw him do with Togo Hesada? He's so confident in turn number 6. He's going to try it again. and that's exactly what he did on Togo Hisada. Second move times 2.
How on earth does Hisada hold on to that? Zamioa now with a chance on the inside, has to leave the room, and as such, stays in third. Hisada's throwing all he can. He'll lose 4 points if it stays like this, and he'll know how important it is. Zamioa goes straight on. He's out of the race lead fight.
Yeah, and it was Nieva that really wanted to capitalize the exit, so I think it just kind of got stacked up behind him. Zamioa in deep, but thankfully no contact made. The front 4, time to catch a breath a little bit. No moves going to be made this time. Got to set it up for the last lap.
That's the key. Can you get close enough to launch one final offensive on the final lap of this race? Jorge Nieves closed this up fantastically, but Hisada is going to throw everything he can at it as well. And let's not forget Sebastian Tixier here in this race. He's got a chance. Xavier Sanchez, he's got the world at his feet. The Porsche All-Star has everything to defend.
Well, and really, don't count out Zamioa. With these 4 so close together, it could end in tears for everybody. Hopefully it doesn't, but here we go. Strap in tight. We're coming to the white flag.
Barney, the flagman, will wave 1 to go here at Watkins Glen, here in New York State. On the brakes at the 90. Jorge Nieva looking to increase the gap between himself and Hisada. It will be a 9-point swing if he can find this overtake and jump himself up into the race lead. He needs the perfect run, and he needs to keep Hisada back in third to really close that championship gap down with 2 to go. Up the hill, here's the chance, but will he get boxed in on this straight by Hisada? He's trying to. They're going to fan it 3 wide to the outer loop. It's Sanchez on the inside. Where are you going to go on the outside, Togo, to try and find this pass? He's now going to have to hope that Tixier is going to give him a little bit of space, and now he'll try and push on the outside. Big slide there from Nieva. Collects 1 Mr. Sebastian Tixier. Is that the moment the title gets decided? And that's a huge accident. On top of that, Sanchez has 1 corner to go. Togo Hisada throws a Hail Mary that doesn't quite have it. Sanchez will take the victory. Hisada now 1 hand on the title.
What a race. That is a proper victory for Xavier Sanchez. He hung out the entire race inside of the top 5, let everybody scrap it out, capitalized at the end, and he is your winner.
What an incredible display, but what a set of circumstances now. This will take way more than a debrief. We've still got drivers trying to make their finishes here in the final stages. Stay with us on the Global Sim Racing channel. We've got post-race coverage coming to you after this. It has all happened here at Watkins Glen. most important rule of racing, buy yourself a ticket to the end. That was the key for the top 5 who could buy a ticket, and the biggest ticket winner was Xavier Sanchez. His victory margin of 2.5 tenths of a second was enough to keep the championship leader, Togo Hesada, at bay. Third would belong in the end to Oye Zamayoa with a very strong performance. Sebastian Tixier would get 4th, but he would tangle with Jorge Nieva on the final lap of the race. Richard Watson would pick up 5th ahead of John Olsen, with Leo Sequeiro finishing off in 7th. Jorge Nieva dropping down to 8th. That might be the moment that the championship here gets decided. It's Gary Ho who ends up 9th, just beating out Marco Antonio Lopez in 10th.
And then we have David Rossi in 11th place, Jeff Saunders following home in 12th. Matthew Maudsley in 13th. Cam Porter, fantastic race for Cam, up 12 positions to finish in 14th. Robert Pengrazi in 15th. Jan Steven in 16th. Michael Grissinger back here in 17th. Rolly Wallbank in 18th. Robert Plumley in 19th. And Jonathan Jordan in 20th.
21st would belong to Jem Matzan, who did not set a time in qualifying. Jackie Matthews then would be 22nd with Andres Bruno and David Muse. Kurt Clapper would be 25th ahead of David French, who would find himself 26th position, the last car on the leading lap. Andrew Eng would be the first a lap down, with Donald Peake and Christopher Laudable in 29th position. Tim Chevalier would round out the top 30.
And then in 31st spot, we have Thomas Martin and Robert Reynolds, your first car, 2 laps down. He did see the checkered flag, as well as Steve Morris in 33rd. Unfortunately, I believe the last car was Laust Olsen to get back out there and collect a checkered flag, collect some points. Michael Rushbrook also back there, but the rest of the names here did not finish today's race.
Yeah, the likes of Kevin Verbruggen, the F2 championship leader, a huge loss there in terms of him. Alejandro Sanchez as well, unable to get out and going over the 30 laps worth of racing. We are now going to take this time to talk to some of our drivers. First and foremost, the one who finished in 2nd position, Togo Hesada, is alongside me here right now. Togo, we have to talk about that last lap, what happened behind with Jorge Nieva, and what that means for you and the championship. You drove an incredible race here today. Do you now think that you've got one hand on the crown for this season?
Yeah, at first I'm submitted Andrews today. During the weekdays, we did offshore race twice, and the twice is the both of them, Alice Andrews has appeared, and we did such a fun battle for the victory for the race. So I think this will be the very very big race. So he will join today also, but he is not today. So really miss him. But the race is very very exciting. Yeah, I thought that this is the really super fast track, so that it should be the pack racing. But I can't believe this is a 5-car battle for the victory. That's unbelievable. The last 3 laps, Jorge passed me for the turn 6. That's fast left-hander just before the final corner. Yeah, he's very fast at this corner. Yeah, I just passed him twice. Yeah, from this corner, and he's very fast in the outside line. So that's just my mistake. Then I have no chance to attack the Javier for the last lap. So very 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 frustrating to pass it from the Jorge, but last lap I think I have no contact with him, so I think he just do his own mistakes. Jorge do so feel a little bit bad, but just I have a chance to win this championship this season, so looking forward to prepare the next 2 weeks.
Well, you have to talk about this race. It's very much a different style of racing to almost every other race on the calendar. Very similar to Motegi that happened earlier on this season, just with a few more corners. For you, Togo, in terms of the development that you've managed to get out of this race, knowing that you were up near the front the majority of the time, Was it easier for you to be out in front leading that race trying to defend, or was it easier for you to be in second or third position looking to attack?
Um, I think just waiting in the second position and waiting for the last lap, then attack is much more easier, I think. Yeah. Um, because this Lotus 14 is very strong effect of the slipstream, so that it's really hard to defend in in front of the pack. Yeah. Once you just somehow get enough space between the behind packs, then you just have won. But that's really difficult.
And looking ahead to next week and Mid-Ohio, is that for you going to be the case of just secure some solid points and do nothing silly between now and the end of this championship? Do you think that just keeping it together is going to get you over the line for the crown?
Yes, yes. I'm in the spring vacation of the university now, so I have a lot of time to practice it. So just learn, and just practice under the practice for the next week.
Well, the floor is yours here, Togo. Anybody you'd like to thank? It's second position here today at Watkins Glen.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That is Togo Hisada who joins us there. Second position overall with a fantastic showcase. Sebastian Tixier was right up in the picture. He stood by with Joey Atterbury.
Well, Seb Tixier, you might not be on the podium, but I have a feeling you had some fun today. How was the race for you?
It was very fun. I was chilling behind, letting people. I was thinking maybe all the Spanish guy will fight each other. It was it was very fun. Yeah.
Well, it seemed like every single lap, you guys did 30 laps out there, and every single one of those was an opportunity for kind of a pass happening. Was that the same way through your eyes, or were you kind of being patient out there, letting the race come to you?
In the back straight, I was lifting a lot just to when I was not feeling to overtake, and also because it's a very fast track, I didn't want to overheat my tires, so I was keeping my tires cool and waiting at the end to attack.
So I have to ask you, I think I already know the answer, but when you are battling with Togo Hisada and your buddies out there, are you thinking about the championship situation at all, or are you just going for that checkered flag?
No, I don't think of the championship this year. And even I will not try to win at all costs this season. It was just for fun. And it's about it's all about love. Jorge helped me a little bit at some point in the race, and then at the end of the race, I helped him. So all about love.
I always love having you out there, Seb. You're one of the best characters that we've got in sim racing. I also love all of the in-car camera shots that you provide us usually every week. So thank you so much for coming out and racing with us. Anybody you want to say hi to?
Mick, who is currently biking somewhere or sleeping in the forest with bears and some and wild animal and stuff. So good luck, Mick. Third time is should be the good one. I hope nothing will happen to him. And of course, shout out to the community and GSRC.
Well, that was Seb Tixier coming home just off of the podium in fourth place today.
Very fantastic result, all things considered, with that contact in the final stages then of this race. Cam Porter joins us now, 14 on the car, Cam, 14th the finishing position for you. A gain of 12 over the course of this race. Couldn't have gone much better.
I think that race went really well. Thanks, Jake. Yeah, I had poor qualifying. I was almost a second slower than my practice time, so I had some fighting to do to get back up where my car number is. But I had a great launch, made up a bunch of spots straight away on the first lap, and then just held on. Just tried to keep the car under me, not make any mistakes, and got some pressure from Kirk Clapper and Roberto Prograzzi near this latter half of the race that kept me looking in my mirror. So it was a really thrilling race today. and I'm very happy with the result.
Talk about then sort of going through the pack, because it's a different skill around here than it is, say, other circuits. With how dependent the draft is up at the top end of the circuit, how difficult is it for you to put the laps together to get that time to catch the other drivers when that gap does extend out to 2 seconds to 3 seconds to the next car in front?
Well, it's about strategy, especially this track where it has a really long straight that, and the draft is really strong. You have to be careful too, though, at the end of the straightaway because you have to compensate for that extra speed. And I went a little bit hot into that turn at the end of the back straight a couple of times, and some of my competitors did as well. So yeah, it's just a matter of just kind of waiting for your opportunity. Just try to keep the pressure on, and maybe get a draft pass somewhere.
It's a different challenge next week. Mid-Ohio rears its head and becomes its next challenge in terms of the season. Over at that circuit, would you say that you have to use a very different set of skills than the one that you did today? And do you believe that it suits your set of skills?
Mid-Ohio is not necessarily one of my best tracks, but I think it's even more challenging than this track. This track's pretty simple, whereas Ohio has a lot of elevation changes, a lot of corners that are close together. You hardly get a break at Mid-Ohio, but thankfully I just did a race in a different series there last week, so it's kind of fresh in my mind, so hopefully that'll help me out.
Hopefully it will, and we'll wish you the best of luck in 1 week's time. Cam Porter there joining us, a 14th place finish, befitting of the drive that he has had here today. That is going to bring proceedings then to a close from Watkins Glen here and the Grand Prix Legend Series. Want to give a massive thanks to the entire team who has helped get it done today, from Joey, from Robert, and from Dougie. You can catch all of the equipment that has been used here today to bring this broadcast over to you, with the likes, of course, of iRacing, OBS, ATVO, Appgeneering, and, of course, Discord as well. And a special thanks goes to June Lalonde. You can catch her music on Bandcamp if you haven't had the chance to already. You can always catch us on our socials, on X, on Facebook, and on Instagram. On top of that, you can head over to our website, globalsimracingchannel.com, as well as our merch store, gsrc.storenvy.com, for your best merchandise that you can get on the sim racing market. The rest of your broadcasts are scrolling across your screen. February 24th will be the time and the place, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. GMT. That is round 11, and will that be the crowning moment for Togo Hasada to get his second championship in 3 successive seasons? This is a huge championship coming up. If you haven't already, mark down everything on your calendar. It is such a privilege to bring this event to you. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.